Hello friends, welcome back to Heartscapes, where we're practicing the system of Reiki at the intersection of self-reflection, spiritual practice, and social action. My name's Michaela. Welcome back to the studio. This is the third video in our Ask Me Anything series. If you have a question about anything you see on this channel, or anything having to do with Reiki generally, or something random that comes to mind that you want to ask, drop it down in the comments of any video and I will address it in one of these series. So this is the third in my response to a question that I get often, which is about the different elements of the system of Reiki, which is, why are there 5 elements of the system and what are those elements? So in the first of these, I talked a bit about the kind of spiritual framework, the cultural context in which these 5 elements developed and exist. And in the next one, we began talking about the first of those elements, which is the precepts. In Japanese, the word gokai, or precepts, describes a series of 5 outcomes that we can expect to experience when we practice the system of Reiki that form the foundation of the system. The purpose of the system of Reiki is so that we can live our lives as an embodiment of these 5 precepts. And the whole rest of the system, the other 5 elements and all of the practices underneath each of those elements, is to help us to get there. So I will drop the links to those first 2 videos down below so that you can get up to speed if you haven't seen them. We're going to move into the second element of the system of Reiki today. Again, designed to help us to get to the point where we can live as an embodiment of the 5 precepts. As a reminder, those are: just for today, I anger not. Just for today, I worry not. Just for today, I am grateful. Just for today, I am diligent, or I am true to my way and my being. And just for today, I am compassionate for myself and all others. It's a simple list, right? Things that we can probably all agree are beneficial, and yet very challenging to actually live day to day, unattached to the things that scare the crap out of us, right? Or that really, really piss us off, rightfully so, perhaps. To truly feel rooted in gratitude in any given moment, to be diligent in those things, and the foundation of all of it, to hold deep, abiding compassion for ourselves and by extension to all other life. It's challenging to live our life that way because there's so many things that interrupt our ability to be those precepts in the world. And so the rest of the system is to help us to get there, to walk the pathway of embodying the precepts, not all at once, right? It's not an all or nothing proposition. Every moment of our life that we make a decision that is unattached to something that we're afraid of, or that's unattached to something we're angry about, that is truly rooted in gratitude or compassion, that is true to ourselves. Every moment that we respond to life from those perspectives is a victory. It impacts our nervous system, it impacts our relationships, it impacts our self-image, and ultimately our ability to fulfill our purpose in the world. So how do we get there? So the next element is a series of meditations and breathing practices. In Japanese, Kokyu Ho, breathing methods. There are a variety of them, a collection of them, and many, many, many different ways that they can be modified, they can be adapted, they can be taken into our life. They are all accessible, meaning the practice itself is simple, however, not necessarily easy. And the reason that they're not easy is that the Kokyu Ho, the breathing methods, are designed to help us to focus our mind. In fact, one could say that the whole system of Reiki is designed to help us to train our mind to come back in from all those places of distraction, all of those things that catch our attention because they poke or prod us in some way, because they provoke a fear, they provoke an anger, they provoke some sort of response that is not grounded in our belly and in our being. We're constantly distracted, by things that we want, by things that we're excited about, by things that we are passionate about, by things that piss us off, by things that are mundane, that don't really matter, but that draw our attention away from what's right in front of us, from this present moment. And so the Kokyu Ho, the breathing methods, are our first point of connection with a focused mind. Now, as a person who, I actually just did a really brief astrology reading with a dear friend of mine, Kei, and we did it as part of another series of videos that is Reiki Crossroads and Connections, where I'm in conversation with folks who work in other fields that have connections with Reiki. And she's an evolutionary astrologer, and she did a little miniature astrology reading, which was super fun. I'll put that link down below. But it really emphasized, something I already knew, but really brought into focus in this moment, which is that as a person whose astrology chart is full of fire and air, my mind is all over the place all the time. Like, it's moving, it's flitting from thing to thing, it's pivoting from this thing to that thing all the time. And so it was really clear to me as we were talking that part of why I'm so devoted to the system of Reiki is that where we begin in our practice is training our mind to come back in from all of those places, to come down from the air, to come down to the ground, to get both feet solid on the stable earth, and to focus our attention on this moment. And this is something that all of us need. Right? Most of us could use more grounding in our life. Those of us who tend to be all over the place and tend to be up in the sky a lot of the time really need this, right? So for example, the foundational Kokyu Ho, the foundational breathing practice, where we start, the one that everything else builds on, is called Joshin Kokyu Ho. And that translates as a breathing method to focus the mind. Specifically, focusing the mind on the breath, aligning the body and the breath into a posture, bringing the mind onto the breath and drawing it down into our low belly, the first diamond. This is our energy center that is connected to earth, connected to the physical body, and by bringing our attention here, focusing at the center of our body, the center of our low belly, it is amazing the physiological shift that happens in our body as our mind settles here in this place, at the stable foundation of our body. We can really feel when we engage this practice, particularly if we gauge it over time, but even if we just really give ourselves over to it for a brief period of time, we really can feel the way in which the state of our mind, the state of our body, and our connection to the world around us can come into an alignment that we can feel when we focus our mind in particular ways. All of the other breathing practices build on that foundation, but we start there and we stay there for as long as we need to. We might practice with Joshin Kokyu Ho for weeks, for months, and just explicitly focus on bringing our attention down to that grounded, stable foundation, because everything else has to build from that foundation. If we go to the mind, if we go to the heart, if we go to our thoughts and our ideas before we have a strong sense of being grounded and well supported by the earth, well supported by our body, well supported by our ability to focus our mind, then we will get off balance. We will become topsy-turvy. It will become difficult to focus. So that is the second element of the system of Reiki. Kokyu Ho, breathing practices, beginning with Joshin Kokyu Ho, methods to focus our mind. This is what the system of Reiki is all about, training our mind to focus where we need to so that we can live as an embodiment of the precepts. All right, I think that does it for this brief summary. I'll put down below a link to a video that will lead you through Joshin Kokyu Ho. It's the same one I linked before because there's a precepts contemplation practice in there too. And if you have any questions about this, any experiences with Kokyu Ho, please drop them in the comments. And shortly, I'll share the next video where we begin talking about the third element in the system of Reiki, which is symbols and mantras. And friends, I did it. I filmed the video in under 10 minutes. I think we just turned over to 10 minutes. This was one of my experiments. Can I actually be concise, focus my mind on what I'm saying, and film a shorter video? Doesn't happen very often. All right, friends, thanks for being with me for this little bit of the journey. As you explore your own experiences with the elements of the system of Reiki, may you be deeply provisioned for that journey. And until next time, I love you. Goodbye.